Okay, this is the video for topic 3.1, the development of nation states and land empires. And by the end of this video, hopefully you'll have the information to explain the how and the why of the development of nation states and land empires from 1450 to 1750. In this Unit 3, Land-Based Empires and Nation States, we're focusing on how nation states and land empires not only developed but consolidated their power from 1450 to 1750. And specifically, our thesis that we're proving for the entire unit is from 1450 to 1750, new nation states and land empires relied upon gunpowder, cannons, and armed trade to fulfill their economic goals. These new states legitimized their power through religion, art, and monumental structures, consolidated their rule using professional bureaucracies and professional militaries, and financed their rule through innovative tax systems. So today we're focusing on how and why land empires and nation states developed during this time period. So these are the people that we're talking about. In orange, we have the nation states of Europe developing, and we know that nation states are basically smaller political entities made up of populations of a similar cultural heritage, ruled by a sovereign leader who's independent, and defined by borders. On the other hand, we have the development of many new land empires. We have the Russian Empire, the Ottomans, the Safavids, the Mughals, and Qing China. All of these land empires are very large geographically, ruled by a ruler who is very centralized, but also has a population that is very diverse. So these are the players that we're talking about today in explaining how they developed, but also why they developed. So we have to begin in 1450, and we have to stop and say, why is 1450 an important date in the development of land empires and nation states? And the bottom line is the tapestry collapse. So between 1350 and 1450, everything that we talked about with the global tapestry suddenly collapses. It begins with the Little Ice Age, which lowers growing seasons and agricultural yields, leading to a slowdown in trade because of the lack of money and generally unhealthy people. Well, this set the stage for the coming of the Black Death, and the Black Death is going to finish off the work that was done before. So, what happens ultimately is everything you see on this map collapses. Not only the four Mongol Khanites, but also the safety and the trade across the Silk Road. So 1450 is important because number one, all the states that we talked about in the global tapestry, especially the Mongol Khanites, collapse. Trade pauses, and we have a gigantic power vacuum because in Europe, with the Black Death, all the feudal kingdoms collapsed as well. And the trading states in southern India, Southeast Asia, and sub-Saharan Africa, they collapsed too because of lack of demand. Into this power vacuum steps land empires and nation states. So how did these groups of people, these core states, how are they going to do it? Well, the bottom line is they used gunpowder and they had cannons. What happens is due to the diffusion of gunpowder from China through Dar al-Islam into Europe, gunpowder weapons had gone from what you see on the left, which is essentially a Chinese, they call it missiles, but it's actually more like fireworks, to these large cannons. And these cannons could absolutely mow down castle walls and the great protections of cities. This is an example of an Ottoman cannon, and this is an average size for an Ottoman cannon. Notice the lady standing by the cannonball there. This is a picture of how the Russians used the cannon to seize the city of Kazan and control the Volga to have a north to south trade route that they controlled. So now that we understand the how cannons, now we got to understand the why. And the why is basically economics. What's going to drive these core states, such as the Turkic people that made the Ottoman, the Safavid, the Mughals, or the Manchus to make the Qing, or the kings of Europe to establish their nation states, or Ivan to spread in Russia? Well, it's all economically driven. Number one, these leaders were looking for areas that they could control the production of key luxury goods and other commodities that they could trade for wealth. An example would be how the Russians under Peter the Great, spread all the way to the Pacific coast to try to dominate the fur trade, or why the Ottomans took over the entry pot city of Constantinople. They were trying to control the production of key things, which leads us to access to trade. Again, using the Russian example and how they expanded to the Volga, and the Mughal example, how they took over India, all of these people expanded and built these states to have access for trade. Now there's a new one. We're in the Little Ice Age, and agricultural production is still down. So many of these groups expanded also for fertile land, the best example being Qing China. When Kangxi and later Qianlong expanded into Central Asia, Taiwan, and Tibet, they did so because they were looking for more fertile land to support their large population. So, when we talk about explaining the how and the why land empires and nation states develop from 1450 to 1750, we talk about the how, the use and perfection of gunpowder weapons, especially cannons, which gave these groups the advantage to take over the areas that they took over. When you talk about the why, all of these land empires, and nation states, they expanded for economic reasons because they had learned the lessons of the tapestry and how improving economic conditions creates a more loyal and happier population. Some expanded to control areas of production, while others expanded to control access to trade, while others expanded to get fertile land to overcome the issues caused by the Little Ice Age and feed their growing populations.